Welcome to the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a well-rounded, happy, goal-crushing athlete. Every week, myself, sports journalist Molly Herford, and cycling coach and kinesiologist Peter Glassford interview experts and chat through all of your training questions. We're excited to have you along for the ride. Hello. Welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. Peter, how's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, we've had some good weekends here. We were away at a bit of a cottage with my family for the, I guess not long weekend. I keep calling it a long weekend, but the two holidays in the U.S. and Canada. We had, I guess, Independence Day and Canada Day that occurred over a week. So we used that to get away with my family, which was fun. And then we were watching a couple of these races. We had a couple of local races and then also another World Cup for the mountain bike stage that we were watching over the weekend.
And that little one that's going on over in, I guess it started in Spain.
Oh, also the tour started, yes. And are you excited for the upcoming coverage that you're doing, both, I guess, with Queen Stage, and then also you'll be doing some bicycling coverage, as I understand?
Yeah, I'll actually be doing 9 stages of the Tour de France with Bicycling Magazine, so definitely check out their coverage over at bicycling.com. I'm really excited about this year. We've shifted to actually really thinking about how basically everyday riders can learn from Tour de France racers. Because I mean, I know you watch it and sort of think like, oh, obviously, like that has nothing to do with me as a cyclist.
Yes, like I shouldn't crash into my friends when we're doing our team time trials or something.
Correct.
Like this?
Correct. Yeah.
Or put ice socks down our back.
Well, you definitely shouldn't do that, or a UCI commissaire is going to tackle you off of your bike. Yeah. But yeah, so it's kind of a fun way of looking at it. We're still doing the obvious like coverage stuff, but with more of a service element. And I'm excited for that. And then I'll also be doing, that for Tour de France Femmes with bicycling. And then also obviously the Queen Stage Women's Cycling Podcast. So make sure you're following along kind of all over there.
And then you also had a big interview on the Queen Stage here we should highlight. I think a lot of our listeners would really like to listen to that one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you haven't already subscribed to the Queen Stage Women's Cycling Podcast, and again, we'll include the link in the show notes, you have to, because we had Sofia Gomez Villafane on last week, and I've heard interviews with her. I've heard a lot of interviews with her, obviously, over the years. I think this might actually be the best interview that's been done with her. And I don't say that lightly. I rarely say that my interviews or interviews I did with other people are the best ones, but like seriously, you gotta listen to this.
Well, maybe a different, it's sort of like 4 women, I guess, right? 4 women talking. There was 4 total? Including her, yeah. So maybe just a little different like format than maybe you've seen Sophia interviewed before.
Yeah, and I think just really honest. We didn't shy away from asking some of the tougher questions, and she was so open with sort of the mental side of racing and all of that. So it is really one that I think everyone should listen to, especially if you are a fan of gravel racing or you are a gravel racer.
Okay, so that was sort of in the past, and then you also, this coming weekend, this is July, 11 to 12 type thing, 10 to 12?
I think technically it starts on Thursday, the 9th.
Okay, well, this coming weekend, we're going to get this podcast out on a Tuesday, and then that Thursday, Sunday following when this podcast came out, which is that, I guess, weekend in July. You are at the Rooted MTB Fest, which is in New York, like upstate New York. Would you call it upstate? Upstate
New York. So if you're in and around the Buffalo or even Rochester area, I would honestly check this out. If you are hearing this on Tuesday, it is still worth checking out and coming. It is such a fun, just super chill women's mountain bike festival. It's just basically out of the backyard of this bike shop in upstate New York. And it is just so inclusive, so fun. You learn so much. They cover everything. There's tons of ride groups and then some skills training. There's bike mechanics doing like bike mechanic training or like how to fix your own bike kind of training. I'll be there as a panelist. I'll also be hosting No Topic Off Limits lunch chat on Saturday. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. And last year I had such a blast. And this year, I will admit that my goal is fully to make more friends and actually get out on my bike with people. It's something that I always find really nerve-wracking, to be completely honest. So I'm challenging myself to do that a little bit more this time.
Okay, well, your bike's in the van, so I guess
you're
going to
say I'm checking that box. I know, I thought about bringing it in yesterday, and I was like, meh.
Well, we should maybe have you ride it this week, but we'll see how that goes. So that's fantastic. So that's sort of like in the near coming future, and then in the slightly more future-facing thing, we have a similar camp in some ways, but maybe a bigger scale of camp, maybe a little different vibe, but similar. The Feisty Fest is in September. September, I think. I didn't write down the date.
Yes, so mid-September, and if you're a woman, definitely if you're on the East Coast, if you're within driving distance of, I'm going to say Philadelphia because it's the closest big city, but it's actually in near Emmaus, Pennsylvania, at the basing out of the Trexlertown Velodrome. So all of my New Jersey and Pennsylvania racing folks probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Feisty, you might remember, I've been on a bunch of the different Feisty brand podcasts. I hosted my own The Business of Fitness for a while, and I've just done a lot of stuff with that crew. I love them. We've had Celine Yeager of Hit Play Not Pause on the podcast probably more times than anybody else at this point, except maybe Dr. Stephen Chung.
Right.
Have to add him in there.
Yes, he is the record holder.
But I think that might actually change at Feisty Fest because I assume I'm going to be bringing my
put in a push.
Bringing my mic and recording with a few people while I'm there. So again, that's just going to be a super fun weekend for women. It doesn't really matter what sport you do. There's going to be a little bit of something for everyone there. So definitely consider checking that out. And Peter will put a link to that in the show notes. You're also doing a women's gravel clinic. So if you're in the Collingwood area.
Mm-hmm. Coming up alongside our local youth club, which has some of the top racers in Canada, if not beyond. So we're doing a gravel. It's called the Cranky Goat. You can look that up. Cranky Goat Collingwood. I think you can still register. If it's closed, let me know and we'll try and slide you into the gravel event on the Sunday. It's open to anyone. And then we're doing a women's gravel clinic on the Saturday. Do you recall the date?
The 25th for the clinic, 26th for the
Yeah,
ride.
That's right. 25. Yeah. So it's a little later in July. So yeah, if you're in the Collingwood area, definitely look us up for that.
And speaking of Collingwood area, one more shout out. Collingwood Off-Road Running. So my friend Karen and I are running this running series, trail series. We have 5 runs still to go. This Thursday, we're over at Blue Mountain. And yeah, just really fun marked course, tons of prizes after. I keep saying, I know that it's great to, pay to be part of clubs like this, but genuinely, if you join, you pretty much have, your membership money will get paid back to you in the prizes.
Well, I think, first night, everyone got a prize, I think, right?
Well, yeah, and the bonus, all of the different little, bonuses and stuff that we have, it's just ridiculous how much the community has come together. And if this sounds like we're talking a lot about community, I think it's actually
Maybe
kind of
related.
leading into our question.
We have 2 questions today. One is sort of related. Yeah, and I guess in some ways our friend Karen, I don't know if we can say this, but she's sort of in this scenario a little bit, and she's actually doing a great job setting herself up. So the question is, you get, for some reason, you're on sabbatical, like our friend Dr. Stephen Chung, the champion of being on our podcast. He actually just was on sabbatical. Or for whatever reason, you're off of work, you're between jobs, you're retiring, you're on just a longer vacation, you're a teacher. What do you do when you can train 25 hours? So this is a little theoretical. We will do the Peter, just tell me what to do. I have 25 hours to train. I'm going to put it all into it this year. What do you do? So we will answer the question. I have this highlighted in red to actually answer the question versus wringing our hands about how to use 25 hours. But we're also going to wring our hands and sort of caution a little bit towards this, thinking beyond just pedaling your bike or running for 25 hours a week.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get into it, quick shout out to our friends over at Payable. So if you do want to get more invested in doing little community events, whether you're fundraising for something, running a tiny series, selling some t-shirts. Actually, Peter, it's funny because Peter's wearing the t-shirt that I made when our friend Karen actually ran the Bruce Trail.
Set the record on
the Bruce Trail.
Overall record for everyone.
And I made t-shirts that said Holland on the Bruce and has a little...
yeah, it's actually one of my favorite t-shirts.
I love that t-shirt. It
Good
has
memories.
the actual trail itself as a line. Anyway, I could have done a sale for that using a payable form, which lets you take payments within a Google form.
And you can actually, we'll put the link to that Cranky Goat gravel or the women's clinic. Actually, both of those are using Payable to do the registration. So they're running a gravel event where you sign up and you click a box to say you won't sue anyone. And so you could just go through that and not pay at the end. Eric will be grumpy that he has all these people who are randomly filling out the form. But if you wanted to see how it roughly works, you could check it out that way. Or I guess you could do the same thing to my clinic, but I'd prefer you do it to
the other guy.
to Eric's form. So that's Payable. And we do have a link that you go to if you wanted to get your own form.
payableapps.com/athlete, and we will include that in the show notes as well. Okay, so you suddenly have 25 hours to train. And I guess actually, before we get into that, maybe backing up into both of our athletic careers. Did you have a phase of life where you were training 25 hours a week?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like we had a lot of years, and like looking back, maybe that's why I'm like gun shy of it. It was probably too much, to be honest.
Well, that's actually kind of what I wanted to point out.
But yeah, if you get onto this thing where you're trying to do 1,000 hours in a year because of the 10,000 hour rule or something like that, right? Like that might have been popular back in that era. You could see, it's definitely pros are going to train a lot. Like if you look at like a Matthew Van Der Poel, like they're going to average like very high mileage in hours, right? Like we do know that, like do the math on 1,000 hours in a year, right? Like
Malcolm Gladwell has a lot to answer for.
Well, he's actually since walked that back, and it wasn't the main point of his thing.
Well, this is the problem with
Yeah, and certainly depends on the sport. No, it's probably true, right? Like the ultimate thing is you need to practice a lot. Dan Cleather has a new book. It's now on my bookshelf that just came out. We love everything that Dan Cleather does, and it's about weightlifting. And I actually highlighted some of my highlights that I got in this physical book, old school highlighting, were like sort of like at the end of the day, like you just need to keep doing weightlifting a lot, like to get better at weightlifting. And the catch with that, as he would always say, is that you would need to be very careful not to do something that makes it hard to keep practicing a lot of weightlifting. So you can't get injured, is what he's saying, or sick or burnout or all these things. So similar with biking or running, we need to be very careful that like we don't just do something that's going to jeopardize doing the thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the 25-hour thing also really does come from cycling. And actually, it's funny, I'm rereading Iron War, another fantastic book from Matt Fitzgerald. It's one of my old favorites. I think triathletes have a lot to answer for when it comes to high volume. And that was my experience when I was training for my first Ironman back when I was, like 22, 23 years old. Like I was putting in 25-hour training weeks. Looking back, I just want to go shake myself. Mm-hmm. Like they're the dumbest things I could do. Like, it's funny because I remember telling you about, and you've seen me when my legs do that cramping thing. And it's like, so they would cramp to the point where I couldn't walk. And it was because like my creatinine kinase levels were so high, which is muscle damage. Like I would train to the point where my muscles were so damaged that I couldn't walk for like 5 days, and never considered that it was possibly my training protocols that were the problem, not just some weird genetic thing that makes my...
Right. Yeah. Well, and this is like, we all want to be snowflakes, but like, I mean, there's probably numerous things, right? Like, oh, I can't sleep at night anymore would be a common one, right? Like I just have this sleep disruption, but like I'm training so much, and it's like, yeah, those two things are probably related. Like you're under fueling / overtraining, and now you can't get to sleep, and you're waking up at 3 a.m. You're hungry at night. So those would be like maybe more common ones, but even niggles, like I just, my knee's always hurting. And it's like, well, if this is also coming alongside these times where you're training a lot, it's probably worth considering. But as endurance athletes, we're very stubborn with this often.
100%. So since then, obviously, I've backed off, and not to say that I wouldn't do the occasional 25 hour week, occasional. But I think this is more of this global, like, okay, I now have this time in my schedule to train. So do you maybe want to hit the, like, what you would actually do if someone was like, okay, but I'm going to train for 25 hours. Oh, also, before I let you do that, when we say that like Matthew Van Der Poel and all of those guys train 25 hours a week, remember, that is literally all they do. They train 25 hours a week or however many hours a week. And then they have someone that is providing their nutrition, their sports medicine, their massage. All of those things are being worked out for them. They are sitting on the couch after it. They're truly, training is the job. It's not the extra thing that they're doing on the side. So as we're talking about 25-hour weeks, we are talking about the people where you're not going pro necessarily. Like maybe you are trying to go like, high in the masters category, or, pursuing as good as you can get. Like I put myself in this category, right? Like I'm not going professional. I want to be good. I want to run races, but I'm not going to be a professional.
Right. And so there could be different ways that someone would go at this, but that's probably valid. Now, I think Van Der Poel actually just was talking about, his retirement, I guess, like when will it happen? And his contract comes up, I think it was at the end of 27. And he said, like, the thing is, it's just like a lot to be doing now that he's got press and all these sponsor obligations and things like that, right? And it does like all those other hours in the day now get like less sitting on the couch. And that's always the balance when someone gets success is can they handle that level of success where like every minute of your day now has to be like filled with stuff, but you also need to still keep winning races, right? It's a big ask. So I think when we look at those 25 hours, that is the question is how do we use those? And I thought like one of the things is you want to sort of like begin with the end in mind, because we're assuming that this is not an unlimited time. It's maybe more than just you're going to Girona for a week. Lots of people can handle 20 hours, 25 hours. They're probably going to do it whether I say not to or not, right? They're going to go ride every day of the week, and it's usually going to fall into that. So what we usually say is we try and get their hours up to about 50% when they're doing that. But what I'm suggesting here, this is more of this like teacher is off for 2 full months would be like maybe the shortest duration, or like our friends who have been, maybe packaged out or laid off or between jobs or for whatever reason they're not working and they have more time, whether they have families or not that they're dealing with that they're also like, helping and being part of the family.
No, it's true. Like I know a lot of moms who are, they've taken a leave from work to do the stay at home thing, which is a full-time job in and of itself, to be clear, but the kids are at school, which suddenly gives them
finally back some time for themselves. So understandably, you want to, okay, let's get back at it and make up for lost time, or this is the only time in my life. Like maybe, you're going to go back to work in a year or whatever, like is the thing. And this is the year. And so I think you should you can set some ambitious goals. You can try and do it. The question is like, do you go from not training and perhaps having just had a baby to 25 hours? Or do we have to like follow general training principles and ease it up, but also consider what level of training can we actually absorb, right? We know this is the inverted U, the big rainbow shaped thing where suddenly like we train an hour, we get an hour of benefit or 1 unit of benefit, and then suddenly it goes up, it goes up, it goes up. But at some point you're going to find whether it's the length of your ride or the number of interval days or the number of strength training days or just the volume in the week, you're going to find that when you get to 20 hours, I don't get a lot better, or 21 hours. But I'm actually starting to get tired and sore and unmotivated, knee pain. And so now you're starting to get worse for every additional hour of training. And that's that U-shaped curve that sort of just defines. I like to think about a lot of things that way because it is true. At some point, you can have too many of something and it starts getting worse, despite the fact that you're doing more or getting more.
Yeah, and I think the danger there is the go hard mentality that most of us that are doing 25 hours a week have. So you hit that, even though you've hit it, you see the numbers going down, you feel the niggles coming on, you're struggling with sleep, all that stuff. Your brain does this very weird thing of like, oh, well, maybe I should do more, right? Like I've plateaued in my power numbers, so I'm gonna add more, when really the answer is adding less, or adding less, subtracting. Well, that's scary though.
Well, and you could say subtracting, but I think what we want to think about is like you're picking one metric and it's hours, but we want to actually expand this out and think about, we talk about the ALs. So all the mechanical and technical and tactical and whatever recovery would fall under, I guess like physiological or something like that, where we're starting to say like, you have 25 hours, and especially in that case of like you have kids coming home at some point in the day, you don't want to be like tape to tape. You drop them off at school and you're immediately on the bike, and then you have 6 hours until they're home, so you train for 6 hours. Exactly. Obviously, you want to have like a nice relaxing breakfast. Then you have like your good effective training. Maybe there's some warm-up exercises before that, maybe some mental visualization. We could go through all the ALs. You're lubing your chain correctly, you're setting your tire pressure, you're tuning your suspension, and then you go and do the training session. Maybe you drive to the correct area to do the training, like the best place to do your mountain bike interval technical training workout, or hills workout or flat workout or whatever you're looking for, or to the group ride or to meet a friend to ride. So now we're getting social and tactical elements in there. And so that would be like what I picture as like a pro training day. And I guess would be the answer is that like I would have someone build up into that 14 to 18 hours of the week, roughly. Not that as you say, some weeks might be more, some might be less. But in that range is what we usually see, especially with masters adults. And then we just start adding in how many of these other things with those extra 10-ish hours, if someone was doing 14 hours, what else can we be doing? Maybe consulting with a nutritionist, maybe we're practicing new meals that we're going to learn, or maybe we're learning about bike mechanics, even going and taking a course. Maybe we actually take a rest week and like actually go and learn everything about bike mechanics. Now I can bleed my own brakes and seat my own tires. And the great thing about a lot of these ALs, technical, tactical, nutritional. So when I'm thinking food, not just like, oh, I'm weighing my food to try and be skinny, but I know how to cook meals for myself and I understand some more nutritional science, psychological, all of those ALs pretty much, aside from maybe physiological, they all come with you for the rest of your life. So what I really like about this time is we're actually thinking not that we need to cram as much hours of training in, but what can we do that's actually setting us up so that like we're going to be such a better athlete, such a better person down the road because I've learned how to cook. I've learned about nutrition, right? I can still fix my bike. I can still do a wheelie. All of these things are going to come with you once you have to go back to doing 6 to 10 hour weeks. So I think that's the way I would think in the optimal world is the goal of this period is actually to like almost like up level yourself in a lot of different ways. And this is strictly thinking about like athletic training, I think in a lot of ways. Probably this stuff bleeds into other areas, but that would be sort of the way I would think about the optimal situation is like you get to that good level of master's level training, but you're adding so many of these other elements.
Yeah. No, I love that. What else did I write?
Well, what did you think? We hadn't really talked about the idea that like there's probably other elements of your life that you're trying to improve too, right? Like,
well, you know me here. I'm a big fan of getting your like environment in order, if you will. So I think if you have this kind of time, like this is a great time to, clear out the closets and organize the gear closet, go through all the old cycling kit, all that fun stuff, and really.
Yeah, set up the closet or the garage really neat. Maybe you're selling stuff, so you're spending time like on the buy and sell, trying to get rid of stuff.
I think, getting basically, especially if you know you're sort of on the clock is ticking and there's going to be a point where you won't have the 25 hours, then yes, by all means, I think like this is the best chance to really get that kind of stuff in order. But then on the broader scale, we were kind of talking about this where there are a lot of people where the 25 hours, whether they're working or not, whether it's a retirement thing or they just like, they decide even with a 9 to 5, they can still fit in 25 hours, which I think is completely...
You could do it for sure.
I was about to say it's completely doable, and I was like, I don't mean it's completely doable in that you should do it. I mean it's technically doable. Like
it's a lot of hours when you think about it, because I always say 18 hours, and people are like, that's not a lot. I'm like, that's 3 hours a day. Like assuming one of the days you don't do 3 hours, right? Like 18 hours is a really solid week. But whenever I say like, yeah, that would be like, because a lot of times when someone's like, just what's the ideal train? I'm like, I really think it's somewhere around 18. But again, there's caveats with like age and everything else, and just like your own ability.
That's the big week, right? Like that's not like
maybe single week. But like when I'm talking about like more our 18 to 25, 18 to 32, like elites, like I just feel like there's like something in around that number, and then it probably again with like a master's person, because we're assuming that most adults end up having to deal with work, family. Just other things that they're having to deal. So, and then also age, of course, they're dealing with. So I do think it like creeps back down towards like that 14, 12, 14. That's it's just, I just what I see, right? Like, and then it's like when it gets more, I think a lot of times it gets tricky.
Well, and I think we're really hoping that you have other things that are competing for your time. I think to me, the most dangerous situation you can get yourself in is where you don't actually have anything else competing for your time, and training is the main thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you remember that, because it is, we do see that, and some of the people who are the best masters we see actually have done a great job, whether it's on purpose or not, like I'm not sure, but they're giving back to the community. And that's what we see in our long-term athletic development model in Canada. I would say other countries are very similar, where once you get past the elite stage, you're no longer on the pathway to the Olympics. You're sort of in this, what is that called?
Okay, so I like...
Active for life is what that's...
Yeah, but I think like the distinction you just said is a really important one, because even when you just said when we're past the pro or elite status, I admit that my gut gives a little bit of a drop. Like I'm like, hey, whoa, that's harsh. But then I think the caveat of like, so you're not going to the Olympics is like a pretty good qualifier for that. So I would say you and I still race at an elite level. Like,
yeah, what most people would say is like too seriously, probably.
Yeah.
But like, you know, we just take it seriously. But I think there's where you have to also take other parts of your life seriously too, right? Is like you probably have, like I know you do have work goals. Like there's lots of stuff you're doing, right?
They're written right here on the wall.
But I think we want to become well-rounded, and because my fear is always that, you know, at some point I'm not going to be able to pedal a bike, and if that's my main activity and the main way I cope, and has come at the exclusion of social connection or other hobbies or other things. And it's tough. I really just like bike riding. I feel very competent when I ride a bike. Like it is the main place. Like that is why, you know, I do it most days, is like because I like it, right? Like, and it's like good to feel like you know what you're doing. But the thing is, if that disappears, it's terrifying. And we have seen it now a number of times with people where injury or life, or they've pushed it too far and then they burn out on the thing that they used to love. And then it's not there anymore. And that can be very, very tough.
For sure, yeah. And so this is why even when everything is going really well, we have our 4 C's. So we have consistency, confidence, cross-training, and community. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because as we were kind of talking through this question, it occurred to me that we have actually changed our training and our lifestyle so much in the last like 5 to 10 years, where community slowly got more and more prioritized than it used to be, right? Like when we first met, you and I were going on training camps, and, you know, we had friends, obviously, like we had communities in that we were racing with people and training with people, but not like local communities. We weren't really giving back to any community necessarily. And then I think that's kind of just crept into our lives. Like I was saying, we have the Collingwood Off-Road Running thing that I'm working on. You've been working with Collingwood Off-Road Cycling for years now. We've been helping out with like the kids programs. I run so many different Shred Girls things.
Sure. And I think that's what we see with, especially as the athletes who we have that are like, have been doing this for like decades. We see that like as the 40s, that maybe that starts creeping in, but then 50s for sure, 60s, and then 70s, like a lot of the rides of the week are going to be dedicated around like meeting the local group ride, riding with the local kids group, meeting for the local trail association, doing trail work with the, and so that's what I see in the people that I coach who are in their 60s and 70s. A lot of times, some of that 25 hours, because some of these people are also retired, right? So they do have 25 hours, but they have between grandkids, between the local, supporting the local club. And so they might actually invest 25 hours into, some of these people are training again in that 14 hours range, but then the other hours are going to go towards things like mobility or yoga or, and then again, some of these like community social elements as well that aren't efficient in any way, right? Like to get to the local group ride, you have to drive 45 minutes and they spend half the time sitting around talking, but it's because you're at that. And then again, just doing trail work for 3 hours on a Saturday, well, there goes your long ride for Saturday. However, you know, they're giving back. Their trail system is getting better. They're outside being active with people.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly, like, I think there are benefits that we don't necessarily feel like it is. So for example, the kids program, I was riding the other week with the like 11, 12-year-old girls, and holy crap, they were good. And so like I'm out there thinking it's going to be just I'm not going to get any training in, and like this isn't going to be any, like I'm not getting anything out of this from a like racing perspective. But I actually got a really, really good skills session in because I was honestly trying to keep up with them. And then with the younger kids, I got a good skills session in because I'm trying to do a lot of like slow speed stuff behind the group. So I'm trying to like go over routes and stuff really slowly and carefully without putting a foot down. So it's actually still beneficial to my training. So for someone who's like, whoa, I don't want to do anything that's not going to benefit my training, I think sneakily these do benefit your training.
Right. And if nothing else, like the idea is that you're making things like over time, you're going to be doing this consistently for years. Right. And we know that like there's that, what is that saying? The like, if you want to go long, go with people or go together or something like that. So that would be the way that you're thinking about that, is that like some of that 25 hours you're going to dedicate in that direction. I think again, as we talked about, trying to upskill during this period with all those ALs, all the things like you can pick whatever you're interested in, but, or you can think like, what is the most limiting factor? Like I have a number of people that like have very little mechanical ability. They can't get themselves out of a bad, a flat or something on the trail. They can't take care of rubbing brake pads or installing brake pads or, changing tires, right? So this would be a thing where you're like, now you're saving yourself money, but also investing in your consistency, because if your bikes are busted, you're not going to be able to go and do the thing, right? Navigational would be another one we've talked about more and more recently, as the devices and the having to navigate using a GPX file versus course marking seems like it's more and more common. Again, like I don't know if you can get lessons in this thing, but trying to become better at navigating, which might involve getting lost and having like a walk home through the forest type navigation scenario. But
did that last weekend. Check.
But that's how you learn, like to navigate is by getting lost. One of the dads of one of the young athletes I coach said like, oh, they all got a bunch of the young women were out like riding together, which is amazing, and they just like they didn't plan at all and then got lost. And it's like, well, that's how, like, that is amazing, like what a great experience, and they probably had a blast. But then also like, okay, well, you either learn the importance of figuring out trail forks and how to map on things, or you like get a better sense of where you are as you get yourself lost, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so there we have it, 25 hours. All right, I think we will wrap up there, but keep the questions coming. I know we're deep in racing season, so any racing, training, nutrition, etc. questions, shoot them over to at Consummate Athlete on Instagram, or we have a form over on consummateathlete.com, I think /podcast, if you want to submit a question anonymously. All right, as always, thanks for listening, happy riding, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. If you want to hear more training, racing, and endurance sport advice, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at consummateathlete.com for a weekly dose of inspiration and advice straight to your inbox.